Hello, Geneva, and welcome to Officially Speaking. I'm your host, Kevin Starr. Each month, we sit down with one of our local officials or advisory board members to get the latest with the City of Geneva. This month, we're taking a different spin, talking to our beautification co-chair, Sherri Weitl, about their efforts to spruce up our downtown. Sherri, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Can you start off by telling our audience a little bit how you got involved with this committee?
Absolutely. Probably started back in about the early 1990s when we had an opportunity in town to do some beautification efforts. It started really with former Alderman Paul Dakota. He saw an opportunity at the post office when they were going to be redoing some of the landscaping around that area to put in some brickwork, some garden areas, plantings, bushes, things like that. So he came up with this idea and kind of got a number of different people in town, my mother being one of them, to participate with that and kind of come up with some thoughts of what they could do in that area. So they got a couple of other people involved with that and did some work, ended up with some gorgeous gardens around the post office area, and that was the start. Then it was probably about the mid-1990s when the reconstruction of the State Street Bridge as well as Route 38 was going to be happening. And again, Paul and the people involved at that point saw another opportunity to do something different. In the reconstruction of the roadways specifically, the state was going to be putting in something called a traffic calming device. Those are the areas at each one of the corners of the State Street area that would protrude out into the street a bit. And people would feel as they were driving that the road was, a little bit more restricted at the corner, so it would slow them down, hence traffic calming device. And it was kind of up to the people of the city what they wanted to do with those areas. They could have been paved. They could have been grassed. Paul Dakota said, we've got some good spots that are open and we could put in plants, bushes, flowers, gardens, things like that. So that was the start of that. As I said, my mother was one of the people that started with that, and as things evolved and they took on these other gardens along State Street, obviously needed some more volunteers, so I started with them along with quite a number of other people, and we put in all of the gardens along State Street. So that was really the beginning of our beautification committee.
And now, joining kind of the present day, what is your mission going forward with the beautification committee?
Well, we started out just kind of really loose, just a number of volunteers, taking care of those few gardens. That we started with maybe 4 or 6 gardens, something like that. Then when we took on State Street, I think we were probably up to about 20, 25 gardens at that point. So all the volunteers, we had to get a little bit more organized at that point. So we needed more structure to our group as opposed to just, a couple people saying, what do you think we plant this weekend? So we put together a committee that we had a chairman, and we started holding meetings to plan, what the look was going to be for that particular year for the gardens and whatnot. And we probably, up to this point, we now have about 20 people on our core group. Myself and former Alderman Dorothy Flanagan are the co-chairs for the committee. But then we have the whole area now, which encompasses State Street Gardens as well as 3rd Street Gardens. So we have about 50, a little over 50 gardens that we are taking care of at this point. So that's getting to be quite a large number. So we did break the area into 5 different, what we call our garden areas. And we then had garden area captains in charge of typically about 6 to 10 gardens in their area with those volunteers. So much more structured now, and it's been working really, really well. We plant 3 times a year. In the spring, we do pansies and snapdragons, things like that can handle the cold weather. Then we do a big summer planting, the largest planting, which is typically done in May, so that it's got a little time to get things going. But everyone loves the spring planting. People are so excited to have winter be done and see some color and little pop in town. So the businessmen love it, the visitors, the residents love it. And the big planting in the summer, which is quite extensive. At that point, we probably are planting in the summertime about 10,000 different plants each year, annuals. And then we have a fall planting that puts in the mums and the kale, so it looks a little bit more like fall. So Dorothy and I are the ones who help kind of organize the planning, the ordering of the plants, and then the distribution, and then down to all the different gardens all those volunteers. We never could do this project of beautifying downtown Geneva, which is our mission, without their help.
Speaking of volunteers, how do you go about getting more help with such a growing effort throughout our downtown?
Well, we always try to put the information out via press releases, the marquee. We put out notices when we're going to be having any of our plantings, and we encourage everyone in town who's interested, just come on out and help us. We do have well over 150 volunteers at this point that are active, planting each one of the 3 plantings annually. We have in our volunteer list well over 200 people that, when they have the opportunity that they can come and help, they do that. So it's really kind of getting the word out to the public. For our volunteers, that spans such a broad group of people just in the area. They're not all Geneva residents. We have people from surrounding communities. We have a number of different businesses that adopt the different gardens, might be outside their business or very close to it. We have organizations, local organizations in town that have their members that take on a garden. In my family alone, at one point, we had 3 generations of our family working on the gardens, from my parents to my husband, myself, and then our kids, and just make a family project of it. So we have lots of people who know a great deal about plants, some of the different gardening groups, things like that, all the way to people who would never consider themselves to have a green thumb, but they do a great job. You don't need to know a lot. If you can bring a trowel and a knee pad and get down into the soil and dig a hole, plant some things, that's all you really need to do. So we also do have, for our committee, a website that is part of the city's website. You can certainly go to www.geneva.il.us and segue through to the Beautification Committee's part, or the quick little shortcut to the Beautification's location on the city's website is www.plantgeneva, all one word, .com. That brings you right to all the information about who we are, what we do, where our gardens are, what our schedule is, all the information you need to know.
Now, with 3 plantings a year and over 50 gardens throughout the downtown, that certainly would cost a lot of money. How does the Beautification Committee go about gathering its funds for such an effort?
Well, that's been a very involved process recently. Back when we first started, we were so fortunate to have a wonderful local greenhouse that donated all of our plants that we needed. They saw the positive impact that having the plants in town made for the town itself, for the residents, as well as for their business. So they were gracious and generous enough to donate all the plants. Now that was quite a few years ago. So since that time, they have retired, and so now we do have to do fundraising to gather enough funds to purchase the plants. I'd say typically annually we would be spending approximately $15,000 a year, which is a lot of money to gather. And so we have had in the past things like our Pasta for Posies, a spaghetti supper fundraiser that we did, which was very successful. We have solicited donations from residents. Many people have just also donated plant material and some of the other fertilizers and things like that we need. So we rely on the community a great deal. We've been recently sending out donation letters to the community, as well as the business community, the residents, asking for donations that have been very well received. We've gotten great response from people. They just enjoy everything that we've been doing, the plants, the flowers. They have been supporting us very greatly. The city has also been very generous enough, the council, to approve some funds for our committee and our mission. It's a portion, it's greatly needed, greatly helps, but it's really the donations and the fundraising that really supports purchasing all the plants.
An endeavor that the committee took on this summer was its inaugural Tour de Fleurs contest. Can you tell our audience a little bit about this, and would it be coming back next year?
Yes, absolutely. We were really thrilled with this idea. The committee had gotten together when we knew that we wanted to move on to some new fundraising. The committee came up with this idea of the Tour de Fleur, and we just basically put that out to our garden volunteers and any of the gardeners that wanted to volunteer their garden to participate. They stepped up and they did that. We were looking initially for 10 gardens, which we were able to get very easily, and just told them that this was going to be a fundraiser. People would vote for their favorite garden with their dollars. One vote is $1. And so we wanted them just to have fun with their gardens this year. We wanted them to do something spectacular in the way of their plantings if they wanted to. They could put in some hardscape that would be appropriate in town if they chose to do that. So every single garden was a little bit different, which was the fun thing. And then we ran the Tour de Fleur began in June and ran through August. And people would send in their donation dollars, and it was a lot of fun. We made about $2,600 on that, which for the first year, with people just kind of figuring out how the whole program was going to be handled, we were totally thrilled with. So we are going to be doing it again next year. I think people will understand and know exactly what it is a little bit more, and so we're looking for even bigger and better next year than we have this year, and it was a great response this year.
Overall, what is the feedback you hear from the business community, residents, visitors that come to Geneva and see all these gardens throughout our community? What is the feedback that you receive from them?
Well, that is probably what keeps us going the most. It is so amazingly positive. All the businesses in town, maybe if there's a garden outside of a restaurant, the restaurant might come out and say, hey, anybody wants to stop in for a cup of coffee, in the spring planting when it's very chilly, come on in at any time and we'll get you a cup of coffee. Our garden for many years was at the post office, my family's garden, and so of course so many people would obviously be going to the post office to conduct business, and all of the people would walk by, they'd stop, they'd talk, they'd all say thank you so much for doing this. And I don't think most of the people before they would talk to us would really realize that it's an all volunteer group, our beautification committee, and that we do it for the love of our town and the beauty. I remember back quite a number of years ago when we first had basically started this. My father had a store in town, and he would always go to the coffee shop, for his coffee break. One day he was at the coffee shop, and sitting at the coffee bar there, a gentleman walked in, sat down next to him, a couple pleasantries and whatnot. And the gentleman asked Dad. He said, are you from town here? Yes, indeed, I am. And he said, good. I said, I just stopped, and I wanted to find somebody that I could tell that I have just so much enjoyed the gardens in your town. This was a traveling salesman, so he was really just going through Geneva. He really wasn't stopping in Geneva for any reason until he was at the stoplight and saw the beautiful flowers at the corners and thought, I need to tell someone that this is really exceptional. So he found Father at the coffee shop and told him that, and wanted him to tell whoever it was that did all of this planting and tending that thank you. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So Father then went to City Council back a number of years ago to tell them that story also and express the appreciation for all the support that the Beautification Committee gets from the city, which is an extensive amount of support through the use of some of the different trucks and things that we need when we need to move the flowers. Through their financial support too. And so he just wanted to tell them thank you. It is noticed. People who come through, it makes a difference to them.
What a great story. As we wrap up the show, can we tell our audience members if they want to get involved with the Beautification Committee, how can they do so?
That's real easy. Going to the city's website is one way to do that, and my email address is there, and they can just shoot me a quick email and ask for information, or just, when's the next planting, we can let them know. They can watch the newspapers, because we always do put press releases in. Very, very often it is on the marquee, and also shows our website there too. Or they could simply call me at City Hall here, which is 630-232-7494, and ask for Sherri, and I can certainly give them all the information that they'd want. We have volunteers from age 4 through 94, so everybody, anybody, anyone who loves the gardens in town and wants to participate, even if it's just a one-time deal, because many of our students that are in schools, so oftentimes they need to have volunteer hours. Many times they'll come when it's a possibility for them and put in some hours and get it that way too. Or, part-time, full-time, any kind of volunteer is a good volunteer. We appreciate them all so much.
That's all the time we have for Officially Speaking today. I'd like to thank Sherri Weitl for her time and insight into the Beautification Committee.
So pleased.
We also thank you for watching. You have to tune in again next month to get the official word from your elected officials, your appointed board members, and our city volunteers.